Welcome back. We're writing Little Man Computer in C++ for my learning purposes. And last time we wrote a simple kind of spike program just to test out the parts that we'd already written in terms of the computer and the little man that operates it, with a little test program that let us add two numbers together and print them to the screen, just to check that for my own interest how it was working as a real use. So now we kind of want to get back to the main stream of development, and we kind of need to start thinking about where we want to get to in the end. At the moment, we've just been building these component parts of the little man computer, but we kind of want an end goal here. And what I'm thinking is that we want to end up with a command line program that allows us to provide a file containing a little man computer assembly program, and we'll then execute that inside the little man computer with the real I/O on the command line. And if we go to the Wikipedia article, we can see here the kind of thing we want to do here is, so rather than providing a sequence of numbers, which we may end up supporting as well, but for now, aiming here at having this kind of style of assembly language programming, where we can have labels for branching targets, and labels also for memory locations that we want to reference in the rest of the program, and the ability to have trailing comments as well, I presume would be sensible as well. So to achieve that, there's a couple of components we'll need. We'll need something that translates this assembly form into the numerical machine code for the little man, and also we'll need to handle parsing of the command line parameters and sensible error reporting on that, and then that'll all get wrapped up in what'll be a very minimal main function, such that we can be fairly confident and not have to do any awkward testing to try and make that fit into anything. So we'll end up with essentially a main function that calls our command line parser, argument parser, calls our assembler, and calls the little man, and has some basic implementations of the input and output stream in the same way, roughly, that we did in our little spike last time. So they're the component parts we want to get to. One other thing I'd quite like to end up doing as well is to kind of break up our program into multiple files. If we look here, at the moment we have our little man CPP and H file and our test CPP file, and everything's all jammed into one file, and it would be nice to kind of separate that out a little bit more, which will make navigation of the code a little bit easier, rather than having to try and work in one giant file. It'll require a bit of messing around inside the Makefile as well to improve the build of that. So where to begin? I guess there was one thing I did want to do that I had overlooked. If we just have a look in here, we haven't added any sort of guard clause which would prevent problems if including this header file in multiple places, such that two copies would end up in the same final program. So I'm just going to stick a little pragma once thing in here. This is not technically standard, as I understand it, virtually all mainstream compilers support it though. So I think it's a little bit nicer for me than the old style if-def #define kind of structure. There are pros and cons to either way, but I think this is just a little bit nicer. Let's check that that works okay. That looks like it's going to be fine. Assuming this passes okay and the tests pass, then we'll commit that and move along. I should have really run that in one command. That all looks completely fine to me. So if we, I think that's the only change we've had. Yep. So let's commit that. Add wants to header file. That's fine. Excellent. So, which part do we want to start at? I think as we're going to be adding several more components to this, I'd like to start by breaking up our source into multiple files, such that we can then just add more individual files for each of the new parts, as opposed to having to then break out more later. That should make development a little bit smoother. So what do we have at the moment? Let's have a look inside here. So we have our LMC namespace, which has several classes in it. We have computer, input stream, output stream, and a little man. The question is, do we go as far as putting input and output stream in their own file, or do we leave them in the little man file, as they are essentially descriptions of the little man requirements? I think that's probably okay, actually, to do that. So let's split this up a little bit. So what have we got? So we currently have, this is lmc.h, and if we, this is going to be a little bit manual here. Let's start by generalizing the Makefile a little bit more, because at the moment in here we have this specific O file requirement, and then everything references that. So if we generalize this O file a little bit, so that it will build any O file from the name of the thing and its header file, we can then just reference .o files, and the rest of the Makefile will kind of just work. This is going to require a little bit of Googling, because my memory on how to do that in Makefiles is a touch rusty. So I shall have a quick hunt here for what we're after. Unix Makefile tutorial. How much are we going to have to go down this? So we want file O general. Okay. So there are, I mean, we're not kind of writing a particularly standard Makefile as it stands at the moment. There are particular ways you're supposed to define your C compiler and the flags and these sorts of things using kind of CC and C flags and what have you, and we've not really done it that way, but maybe we will do that somewhat later on. At the moment I kind of just want to simplify or generalize the way that it currently works, and then we can potentially make it a bit more standard later. So this is the kind of setup we want. So looks like you do % for the name of the thing, and then it's going to be dollar less than for the inputs, I think. Does that make sense? The dependencies are there, I think. Is dollar less than not quite what we're after? I think it might be. Is it dollar hat that's all of them, as opposed to? Let's give it a go and see what we end up with here. So if I change that like so, and then change this. So this may well just be what we expect. For this, it might just work like that. Is that going to work? Yes, of course. The Makefile is not a dependency of itself. I wonder if there's a way of making that be the case. So if we look here, we can see it's building correctly. That's nice. Good. And then here, I don't believe you're supposed to have the -O on the end either. So let's rectify that part. So if we put this in like so, so that will then be, now it's, I think it's going to be $hat. We might need a touch of tinkering there. Yes, we haven't built everything. We need a check for RM to ignore any non-existent files, but that's fine. That looks like it's got the correct component parts there, so the $hat seems to work. And the, is it $@ symbol is the target name. Like so. That's fine, I don't mind that complaint. No, not quite. $@ symbol, I've put %@ symbol. Yep. So we're going to have a very weird rogue file name there. But that's fine. We can delete that in a moment. Like so. That looks better, doesn't it? And we can do the same elsewhere. In here, this will make our life a little bit easier when doing other things. So that then becomes $@, and that becomes $hat. That looks good, doesn't it? test depends on the test, clean, all of those things. That's good. Do we go a little bit more consistent here as we're here? So what if we were to do this for that, and also include C flags? No, let's do it here. And then we should just be able to say like so. That looks reasonable, doesn't it? So if I make clean, that's fine, and then make that looks okay as well. I suspect, that's why. Yes, we want that in the make all. So then if we do make, adder will be built, and if we do make clean, it will be removed properly. Let us just have a check and remove that dodgy file name that we'd included. So that looks kind of more like the kind of traditional setup that we're after. Excuse me, .phony, I believe, is something that you use to say this doesn't actually make a file with the name that's given. So does make clean just work? This Makefile should be. No, it doesn't. Oh no, that just does the right thing. Yes, okay. So that's how you tell it that file doesn't do anything. So if we also do like this with test and clean, that might work. So I should be able to do make test and it'll build. And make will build the adder. That's all fine, isn't it? If I just do make, it should build adder, which hasn't been built. That's okay. That all looks fine. So that's now a little bit more standard, but it does mean that we can move forward and create pairs of CPP and H files, and then just add the O files as we need them to be included with each of the builds. Now, do we want to create a variable with our objects in, or are they? Is this always going to require all the components? I don't think it is. So I think I'm happy to keep adder and the test files separately, particularly as we're probably going to end up separating out the tests as well, and then have, how are we going to do that? No, maybe not. I'll have a think about the tests because we at some point we'll need some sort of wrapper main file that does everything. So I'm going to leave that as a single file for now. But let's split out the production code, shall we? Right. So we've got lmc.h. So if we go and create a computer.h. That's probably a good start. Like so. And that's going to look very similar to this. No idea what order things are in. Like so. We are going to need to include array. We're going to need to include pragma once as well. And we need to include array. And have we used a vector in here as well, or just array? Looks like we've just used array, so that's fine. And that includes our namespace. So we also need a computer.cpp. Let's first remove that. So that's the only use of array, we can get rid of that. We do need to include, and this is where having the pragma once is kind of useful, we do need to include computer.h because we are referencing the computer. Let's keep them separately like that. So we will then need to edit the CPP file and create computer.cpp to correspond, like so. And we can pull out the computer parts, like so. Let's just pull out the source for now, and then we'll work out what dependencies we have. So that's I can never work out the right order here. So do we have, so we definitely need to include our computer.h. That's a given. That's fine. Is mod used in here? Yes, it is. So mod comes out as well. Is mod used in here as well? No, that's at least convenient. So we don't have to worry about having to share that between the two, at least not for now. So that's good. I can't remember what we used algorithm for. So let's ignore that for now. So if we go back to the Makefile, can I just do that? Yes, I can. And then these two want to be dependent on computer.o as well. And then we can find out where we have any issues. Do I dare be brave and delete star.o here? I think I do, for now. Let us see if this correctly builds things and works, which will be pleasing if it does. And it does. So if I make test, that should all still run. That's very nice. Let's just double check by cleaning that we haven't fallen into any traps of running the old code. But I think we're probably okay. And then what we also want to do is to include, to rename the little man. But what I want to do also is, I don't have the tests here. is I want to explicitly include the computer as we are testing that, even though there's an implicit inclusion via LMC. I don't really want to force that to be the case, or to rely on that being the case in case that goes away at some point. That won't be so much of a problem if we do separate out the tests. So that's good. So the next thing we want to do is we want to rename LMC.h, I guess, to little man. Is that what we've called it? Where's our header file? So if we go to here, so we've called it little man, so we might as well go with little man.h. And what's the easiest way of doing this? Is there a get move? Does that work? To rename something? Get mv, that sounds completely plausible, doesn't it? So let's actually quit out of that ls and do get mv lmc.h to little man.h and get mv lmc.cpp to little man.cpp, like so, and hope that's done the right kind of thing. Yes, that looks plausible. So we need to edit our references. So little man.cpp now references little man, like so. The tests will reference little man as well. Like so, and adder as well will reference little man, and computer.h, just to be completely clear there. And also actually I'm going to reference vector explicitly in case the usage of that goes away internally inside little man, so that should be fine. So if I make clean here, we will find if there are any issues. We're relying on the wrong thing as well, so we need to edit the Makefile. That's the last change, hopefully. So that's little man. That's little man, and the rest should just take care of itself. Little man, little man, little man. That seems to be building okay. Wonderful stuff. Good. So is there anything else I'd like to make different before committing that? No, I think that's fine. Just separating that out as is. I can just do this and see where we're at. Yeah, so we have little man CNHs, computer CNHs, our adder main test, and our test CPP, which I think is fine. So what's our status? We've renamed a couple of files, we've done a bunch of modifications, and we've added the new computer. So I think we can do that. Yeah, okay, so we'll commit that, separate out computer and little man into separate source files. I think that's fine. As a description, separate out computer and little man into separate source files. Yeah, that looks good, and that's all fine as well. Excellent. So I think we'll leave it there for now. Next time we can start adding additional source files for the command line parsing and for the assembler. But that's all for now.